let's start in the obvious place. That would be the Chicago Bears, one of the small handful of teams that I gave an A plus. And really,
Wow.
I mean, how could you not though? How could you not?
Yeah.
When I mean, Caleb Williams, obviously the top pick. You follow that up with Rome Odunze at 9 overall. Completely rejuvenate this Bears offense, change what it might look like. And look, we can get into it, but even if you draft a punter in the 4th round, I still think it bears asking the questions. Are the Bears the biggest winner in this year's draft? Because I think they are.
Bears asking the question. Get it?
Ha
No, they absolutely are the biggest winners in the draft, just given how much better they are when you consider the draft class in totality. You've now brought fun and flashy offense to Chicago, something it's never really seen if all goes to plan with Caleb Williams and now his built-in bestie in Roma Dunze. They had a throwing session with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore the week before the draft even kicked off, and they arrived in Detroit as friends. They're already friends. You have to think that chemistry is going to be there in Chicago for a long time. And then on top of that, you have just made this team a complete roster. And especially when you consider, all right, you traded the 2nd round pick for Montez Sweat at the trade deadline last season. You also traded the 4th round pick for Keenan Allen. Great. Those are included in your draft class now. And when you look at it top to bottom, this is just a completely different team on paper than what we saw even last season. And I can't wait to see if it really does finally work out, if Caleb Williams is the prince that was promised. He certainly thinks he is. He's not shying away from the spotlight. I love it.
Caleb's just a natural for all of this, and I can't wait to see how he handles it. The early days have been so fun. Don't sleep on Karan Amegaji, the offensive tackle out of Yale. I don't think he's a day one starter, but a nice piece to try to boost that offensive line. And look, if you're going to draft a punter in the 4th round, at least it's like the best punter. Tory Taylor out of Iowa.
Might as well be an Australian punter that was basically Iowa's offense last year because they didn't have anything to speak of. He had so much work in Iowa. So I totally understand that. I love the fact that you got a guy in the 4th round that you know is going to be an impact player on your team right away. I understand that aspect of it. I am just personally my own philosophy. I've seen it go the opposite way too many times, where their body of work in college does not matter when it comes to the NFL. Marquette King comes to mind, the punter that was drafted, lasted a couple of years, successful years in the league, but then got burnt out. And I saw him kicking in the USFL last year. I'm also old enough to remember and have been with the Buccaneers when they traded up to draft Roberto Aguayo, who is a kicker, but in the 2nd round. And I know there's a difference between the 2nd round and the 4th, but that went spectacularly to pieces. I'm just not a fan of spending premium capital on specialists. Sorry.
Yeah, I think the Aguayo thing is weighing heavily on your conscience here. Look, I think he's a really good punter. Even if you don't like it, everything we already listed from Caleb to Rome, Montez Sweat, Keenan Allen, technically part of this draft class, easily the biggest winners for me. Let's move to maybe the biggest gamblers in this 2024 draft, which would be the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, we joked about it on the recap show on Friday after round 1. Felt like the Vikings were trying to do the same double dip as the Houston Texans last year. They wind up with J.J. McCarthy. Then they trade up for Dallas Turner at number 17, doing a deal with Jacksonville. If it works out the way it did in Houston, it's going to be great, obviously. But my question to you is, quietly, the Vikings gave up quite a bit of resources to get these 2 players onto their team. Are we at all worried they did too much?
I'm not worried at all, given who they already have on their roster. There weren't a ton of needs that the Vikings had going into this draft, albeit for the most important need, which was quarterback, and they got their guy. I know that it might not have been their ideal candidate. There were plenty of reports swirling that they wanted Drake May. They offered up 3 first-round picks to New England to do it and go get him, but it didn't work out. New England stood pat. They took Drake May. But I don't think J.J. McCarthy is a consolation prize. I think he's just a little bit more of a project. But luckily, Minnesota Vikings are equipped for that. They have a former quarterback at head coach, a former quarterback in their quarterback's room in Josh McCown. Not to mention they have an offense that includes Justin Jefferson, whose deal sounds like it's imminent if Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's comments were to be believed after the draft. Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, a good offensive line, perhaps a top 5 defense that can help you out. And oh, by the way, you have a bridge quarterback in Sam Darnold, so you can be patient. You just didn't have that many needs either this year, and I get there was some future capital given up. But the fact that the Minnesota Vikings landed not only JJ McCarthy, but then didn't have to part with their second first round pick or their first round pick next year, they got Dallas Turner now. And now with Dallas Turner and Jonathan Grenard on the edges of this defensive line in a Brian Flores defense, this is more than he's ever had in his career as a coordinator or as a head coach on defense as far as pass rush ability. I can't wait to see how this ends up working out. Don't sleep on what the Vikings could be this year. It's going to be a very tough division. I think the NFC North is going to rival the AFC North for toughest division. But I love everything the Minnesota did, and I think that they addressed everything they needed to do. I think they're going to be fine.
I'm going to say I like what they did. And if it works out, it'll be beautiful. Like I said, if it's CJ Stroud and Will Anderson all over again, nobody's going to care. I gave the Vikings a B- just because I liked, not love. I mean, you did these two deals, then you didn't pick again until the 4th round. So already your immediate impact on this year is lessened just for the lack of capital. And then on top of that, it's a scary place to be when after all of these deals, the Vikings currently have a first round pick and a 5th round pick in next year's draft. Obviously, they could get some of that back. There will be comp picks to consider.
I was going to say they should be expecting at least 1 3rd round comp pick for Kirk Cousins. You could get another one for Danielle Hunter, depending on how this all shakes out.
It's still a lot. It's still a lot.
I want to push back though, because the Bears picked twice in the top 10 and then didn't have another pick until pick 75. This is kind of the same thing. If JJ McCarthy ends up working out and being the Vikings quarterback of the future, this is basically the same thing the Bears did. You gave the Bears an A+. So
I'm a lot more confident that Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze are those dudes than I am in JJ McCarthy and Dallas Turner. Like
JJ
I said,
McCarthy
though,
with JJ as in Justin Jefferson.
I get it, man.
Addison,
I get it.
Hawkinson and all these guys. I loved Minnesota's draft. That's just me.
Hey, Vikings fans, go find your girl Carmen V on Twitter. I like it. I like it. We'll just see how it's gonna. It can age wonderfully or very terribly.